Alexander the Great, the undefeated conqueror who never lost a single battle. Born 356 BC in Pella, Macedonia, son of King Philip II. Educated by Aristotle himself, learning philosophy, science, medicine, and warfare. At age 12, Alexander tamed Bucephalus, his legendary warhorse and lifelong companion. His father Philip built Macedonia into military superpower with revolutionary phalanx formation. The phalanx used 18-foot sarissa spears, creating impenetrable wall of bronze. At 16, Alexander commanded cavalry at Kyrenia, crushing combined Greek armies. His cavalry charge shattered Theban's sacred band, Greece's most elite warriors destroyed. Philip was assassinated in 336 BC, making 20-year-old Alexander king immediately. Alexander crushed Greek rebellions, destroying Thebes completely. 6,000 killed, 30,000 enslaved. The Persian Empire stretched from Egypt to India, world's greatest superpower. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed into Asia with 40,000 men, invading mighty Persia. At Granicus River, Alexander personally led cavalry charge across river into enemy. Persian commander's sword struck Alexander's helmet. Clitus saved his life seconds later. Despite nearly dying, Alexander's cavalry crushed Persians, first major victory in Asia. Greek cities in Asia Minor welcomed Alexander as liberator from Persian rule. He cut the legendary Gordian knot prophesied to mean conquering all Asia. At Issus, Alexander's 40,000 faced Darius's 100,000 on narrow coastal plain. Alexander personally led cavalry wedge smashing directly toward King Darius himself. Darius panicked and fled, abandoning his mother, wife, children, and entire camp. Alexander treated captured Persian royal family with honor, winning respect from enemies. Tyre was island fortress never conquered. Alexander besieged it for 7 brutal months. Alexander's engineers built half-mile causeway through sea. Impossible engineering feat achieved. Siege towers finally breached walls. 8,000 Tyrians killed, 30,000 sold into slavery. Gaza's commander refused surrender. Alexander besieged fortress for 2 months personally. Arrow pierced Alexander's shoulder at Gaza. He commanded battle while bleeding heavily. Egypt welcomed Alexander as liberator, crowning him pharaoh and son of gods. At Siwa oracle, priests declared Alexander son of Zeus. He believed it. At Gaugamela, Darius assembled 250,000 troops, largest army ancient world had seen. Darius deployed scythe chariots with blade-covered wheels to break Macedonian phalanx formation. Macedonian troops opened ranks perfectly. Chariots rolled through harmlessly, causing no damage. Alexander spotted gap in Persian center. He led companion cavalry in decisive charge. His cavalry wedge smashed through Persian center, driving straight toward Darius again. Darius fled again, abandoning his army. Persian resistance collapsed completely afterward. Macedonian cavalry pursued for miles. Persian casualties exceeded 50,000 troops killed. Babylon opened gates without fight, welcoming Alexander as new master peacefully. At Susa, Alexander seized 50,000 talents of gold, unimaginable wealth captured. Alexander burned Persepolis palace, revenge for Persians burning Athens 150 years earlier. Alexander pursued fleeing Darius eastward, marching his army at incredible speed daily. Bessus, Persian satrap, murdered Darius before Alexander reached him, declaring himself king. Alexander covered Darius with royal cloak, ordering royal burial for fallen king. Alexander pursued Bessus through Central Asia for 2 years, eventually capturing him. Central Asian tribes fought fierce guerrilla war from mountain strongholds for 3 years. At Sogdian Rock, Alexander climbed supposedly unclimbable cliff at night, personally leading. 300 volunteers climbed 1,000-foot cliff face at night. 30 fell to deaths. When defenders saw Macedonians above them at dawn, they surrendered immediately in shock. Alexander married Roxana, Sogdian princess, one of history's great love stories. Royal pages conspired to murder Alexander. Plot discovered and conspirators executed brutally. During drunken argument, Alexander killed his friend Clitus with spear, haunted afterward. Alexander grieved 3 days, refusing food, nearly suicidal with guilt over murder. Alexander crossed Hindu Kush in winter. Army endured frostbite and altitude sickness. In 326 BC, Alexander crossed Indus River, entering India, the unknown east. At Hydaspes, monsoon floods raged and King Porus deployed 200 war elephants. Alexander secretly crossed flooded river at night 17 miles upstream from Porus. His cavalry encountered Indian chariots stuck in mud, destroying them before main battle. Indian war elephants terrified Macedonian horses. Soldiers fought beasts with sarissas. Macedonians targeted elephant drivers, specifically wounded beasts trampled Indian troops backward. Alexander's cavalry encircled Indians from rear. Classic hammer and anvil tactic executed. 7-foot-tall King Porus fought bravely until wounded and captured on elephant. Alexander asked how to treat him. Porus replied, "As a king." Alexander agreed. Bucephalus died from wounds after Hydaspes, Alexander's companion for 20 years gone. Alexander founded city Bucephala on battlefield, honoring his fallen beloved companion. Army suffered 8 years of continuous warfare, monsoon rains, and tropical diseases. At Hydaspes River, exhausted army mutinied, refusing to march further into India. Alexander sulked in tent 3 days. First-time troops refused his orders. Finally, Alexander accepted reality, agreeing to turn back toward Babylon reluctantly. Alexander built fleet of 2,000 ships, sailing down Indus, exploring route to ocean. At Mali city, Alexander climbed wall first. Only 3 soldiers followed him. Trapped on wall, surrounded, Alexander fought alone until ladder broke under soldiers' weight. Alexander jumped inside city alone, fighting surrounded until companions rescued him desperately. Arrow pierced his chest through lung. Alexander nearly died, saved barely by surgeons. Army thought Alexander dead. Grief-stricken troops nearly rioted at losing their king. Alexander showed himself alive on ship. Soldiers wept with joy and relief. Crossing Gadrosian Desert proved worst disaster. Thousands died from heat and thirst. Offered water, Alexander poured it out, refusing to drink while soldiers suffered. Alexander marched on foot through desert with troops, sharing every hardship equally. Returning to Persia, Alexander executed corrupt officials who'd stolen during his absence. At Susa, Alexander arranged mass wedding. 10,000 Macedonians married Persian women. Alexander adopted Persian customs and dress, angering conservative Macedonian officers deeply. At Opis, veterans mutinied, demanding discharge, confronting Alexander directly and angrily. Alexander leaped into mutinous crowd alone, challenging them to kill him themselves. Veterans broke down, begging forgiveness. Reconciliation feast followed with emotional speeches. Hephaestion, Alexander's closest friend and probable lover, died suddenly from illness. Alexander cut his hair, fasted for days, built massive funeral pyre costing 10,000 talents. Alexander immediately planned Arabian conquest, over 1,000 ships under construction already. He planned circumnavigating Africa, conquering Carthage, Italy, and entire Mediterranean after Arabia. In June 323 BC, Alexander fell ill after drinking heavily at banquet. His condition deteriorated rapidly. Within 10 days he couldn't speak anymore. His soldiers filed past his deathbed in final emotional farewell to legendary king. Alexander died June 10, 323 BC, age 32, undefeated in battle, greatest conqueror ever.